right, now that we've got some of the housekeeping out of the way here. This first roundtable is entitled Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, Decarbonization and Energy Transition, Developments and Outlook. So what this means in terms of a theme is, will the recent agreement to improve the evaluation and competitive edge of enterprises involved in the valve supply chain, and what are the anticipated effects on the equipment supply chain over the medium term as a result of decarbonization and the energy transition? So we have 4 panelists, one who will be here shortly. We have 4 panelists here in the room. We have one joining us, I believe, by Zoom, and we'll get to him in just a second. So let me start to introduce the panel. To my immediate left here is Stefano Giacomelli. He is Associate Partner, Climate Change and Sustainability Practice at KPMG Advisory in Italy. He supports clients in managing risks related to ESG issues, climate risk assessment, climate strategy and carbon inventory, implementation of management and control models pursuant to Legislative Decree 23101, environmental audits, ESG due diligence, development of environmental management systems according to ISO 14001 and OHSAS 18001 health and safety management systems, also development and delivery of greenhouse gas accounting and reporting systems, and verification of environmental accounting and reporting systems. And then to Stefano's left is R.Ramesh Babu. He is Managing Director in India for Velan Valves, India PVT Limited. And we'll come back to the next panelist in a minute, but we'll go on to Ruyi Su. She is category manager from Technip Energies, a leading engineering and technology company for the energy transition, expert in global sourcing and supply chain management. She has contributed to the successes of the company's major contracts deliveries in the past 15 years. Joining us by Zoom, we believe, is Energy Transition Manager and Low Carbon Operational Efficiency Committee Manager in IOGP, Dario Bucalato. He holds a BS in Mechanical Engineering for Energy with over 28 years of experience in the energy sector, mainly in the oil and gas industry. With a project-oriented background, he has had various roles around the world in project management, operations, and business development. And as soon as we find him, the other panelist is Giuseppe Franchini. He is full professor of energy and environmental systems at the Department of Engineering and Applied Sciences, University of Bergamo. He holds the chair of energy systems and renewable energy technologies and the Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering. Currently serves as Rector's Delegate for Energy Transition and is chair of the Mechanical Engineering Faculty Council. He is author of more than 100 scientific publications of international relevance in the energy sector, focusing particularly on renewables and hybrid energy systems. So with that, we're going to get started, and hopefully Giuseppe will be here shortly. So, you can hear me. There we go. Good. All right. So we're going to get into the questions right away here this morning for our panel, or this afternoon, I should say, for our panel. Stefano, a little bit about risk management. Could you discuss how the comprehensive reporting on ESG issues mandated by the CSRD might help companies better manage risks associated with sustainability, challenges such as climate change and human rights?
Do you hear me? Okay. First of all, it's most important to understand that risk and the management of risk is one of the most important pillars of CSRD. CSRD is a box of many other regulation that are linked with mandatory regulation related to disclosure about sustainability. This is a point a starting point is very important to better understand the importance of CSRD and the rule of risk in CSRD. CSRD is structured in 4 main pillars. 4 main pillars that are derived from the TCFD framework, if you don't know about it. And CSRD are focused on, for each of the standard, on strategy, governance, risk, and management targets. Risk, I think that is the most important things that was introduced by CSRD, because through CSRD that requests the company to report and manage the risk. These risks are related to the ESG topics that are defined by CSRD. First of all, for this reason, all the company have to understand which is the topics and the subtopics that are related to the company activities, and understand the relevance of these kind of topics. When you for the identification of the topics and the level of relevance of these kind of topics, you have to identify the impact and the impact on the context of the company, on the context, and in the other side, you have to identify your risk and opportunities related to the topic or the subtopic. For the reason, it's very important to understand that CSRD, with the request of the identification of the risk related to the topics, and to the identification of the relevance of a topic related to the risk in particular, and the financial impact related to this kind of risk, request the company to manage the risk, to identify the risk. This is the first point that is very important to better understand for the CSRD and for the company. In the past, company don't manage or don't recognize, don't identify the risk related to ESG, because many times are focused on financial risk, obviously, and on the operational risk. But CSRD introduce and request to the company to identify the risk that also in the past was managed by the company, but not was identified by the company. This is the very different introduced by CSRD. Identifying risk related to topics and identify the quantification of relevance of the risk related to finance, the company has to structure the company in order to better manage the risk, and at the same time to adapt to the risk. This is the first, the most important things that are introduced by CSRD. At the same time, requesting to the company to identify, to manage, to quantify the risk, request to the company to introduce a new structure of governance in order to better understand this kind of risks. And at the same time, you have to, the company have to manage, to measure, to quantify the risk, monitor the risk day by day, I think, every year, obviously, in the report, but the company have to develop a system in order to better manage this kind of risk, and to adapt the action in order to manage this kind of risk, to reduce the risk. CSRD request to the company to identify the inner risk that they are exposed in ESG. But at the same time request to identify the inherent risk and the measure that the company implement to reduce the risk. All these things are evaluated by the stakeholder. And this is another thing very important in order to take in mind in order to the request of CSRD. The risks are one of the main important things focused by, for example, the banks or the financial institutions all over the world, by the fund and so on, because the risk of a company, the risk of is the risk of the banks. For the reason the banks or the insurance evaluate the company also focusing on the risk, the ESG risk that the company identify, and the capability of the company to recognize the risk. If a company does not recognize the risk, is a problem for a banks, is a problem for a critical issue for an insurance, for example, because if a company don't know how to identify the risk, how to manage the risk, is a critical issue and an issue for the future, because the risk, if you identify the risk now, if you are the risk, you can identify the risk for the future. And related to that, obviously, the most important items that are focused on CSRD is climate change and human rights. The two main topics were about that you focus on regulation and on the request included in the CSRD. This means that you have to look to the future in order to better understand also the development of the risks and the scenario related to the main important topics that you identify and the risk related to that. And as I mentioned, all the company will be evaluated also through the disclosure that will be defined in the sustainability statement that CSRD request from next year and in the year before as the dimension of the company.
Very good. I want to emphasize to everyone here on the round table, feel free to jump in and if you hear something that you think is significant that you'd like to respond to, you can always intercede here in the middle of some of these. Sure. So moving along, Ramesh, I want to talk what we call scope and impact. Can you explain how the CSRD's expansion of the scope beyond publicly traded companies to include large private companies and subsidiaries of non-EU companies, how is that going to affect overall landscape of corporate sustainability in Europe?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kurt. I think it's a very pertinent question to who we are as a company here in Europe. We have two large facilities in France and Italy who are covered by this new directive, meaning companies with a turnover of around above 40 million euros and also with 250 people. So this is one, and we are also a subsidiary of a non-EU company, meaning the headquarters of Velan is in Montreal. So we get covered by all counts, and I think it's a very prudent move from the CSRD because a couple of things it does. The most important thing it does is it accelerates the EU's ambition to get to net zero quickly. That's a very important point. I think the numbers that they have chosen are very prudent in the sense like many companies around this turnover, they do come together and then they do have to make their programs. They do have to have their sustainability programs. So most of the supply chain of large organizations get covered under this rule. So the The most important thing is coverage, which they have taken care of. The couple of other things that they have done well is more to include a lot of transparency and accountability in terms of how they have come out with this directive. Meaning, 2 decades back, it was generally called an initiative. Like, for example, you have a global reporting initiative. Then subsequently, the initiative changed over to becoming a standard. You have multiple standards, like a Canadian sustainability standard, a Chinese sustainability standard. But I think Europe has gone a step further, and they are now calling it a Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. So it is a directive now, and the way they have put together what we call an integrated report for these companies coming in from January 2020. The results of FY26 is what we call it. So you need to align it with your annual financial reports together with your sustainability report. So that's another great thing that they have done. Not only that, we all know that a lot of greenwashing happens around the globe when it comes to sustainability. So the way I think the CSRD is taking care of that is by asking the organizations to have a limited third-party assurance. So this limited third-party assurance will ensure that you just cannot go ahead and greenwash a lot of what you do. Then subsequently, they are also looking at a lot of quantitative metrics as KPIs to be discussed, and both forward-looking and retroactive metrics have to be published, and people have to commit to targets with respect to KPI, and their sustainability strategies should be in line with the way they need to accomplish these KPIs. So all in all, the way I see CSRD coming together, European Union is taking the lead from the others in terms of getting us to a net zero and a carbon-free economy as quick as possible. So a lot of work needs to get done by organizations like us, but I think it's in the right direction.
All right, very good. Giuseppe, I want to talk a little bit about energy transition strategies. Could you detail for us how the CSRD impacts reporting requirements for companies that are undergoing energy transitions? So, for example, shifts from fossil fuels to the renewable energy sources.
Yeah, thank you, Coach. And first, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me and to bring an academic point of view to this discussion. My research, my academic research, focuses on energy conversion technologies. So today, I would like to contribute to the discussion by touching on some topics on this area. As you know, we are experiencing a historical phase of energy transition characterized by several processes. An increased energy efficiency in every sector. Buildings, industrial companies, transportation, and so on. A growing demand for renewable energy. Renewable sources like solar, wind, biomass, hydro are expected to continue to grow rapidly worldwide. And this is due to their decreasing cost and widespread availability. Decline of coal, where we expect a decline of coal consumption gradually on the time due to the environmental concerns related to the carbon emissions, of course. We expect a rise of natural gas. You know that the higher is the share of renewable energy in the grid, and the higher is the need of something else, to other sources to compensate for the intermittency and the fluctuations of renewables like solar and wind. So we expect that gas-fired power plants will continue to play an important role in several energy markets. Another process is the expansion of electrification. Electrification is expected to increase in many sectors like transport and heating, for example, but this could lead to a greater demand for electricity, and we have to face this greater demand. We could meet this increased demand by renewables, but also by conventional, mainly gas-fired power plants. And then we expect a future with new emerging technologies in the near and in the mid-term future and long-term future, like green hydrogen or nuclear fusion and so on. So within this framework, the corporate sustainability reporting directive plays, in my opinion, a significant role in shaping reporting requirements for companies undergoing energy transitions. In particular, the companies transitioning from fossil fuel to renewable energy. How? We can identify different levels, different items. The first one is an expanded scope. The CSR directive expands the scope of reporting requirements for companies. It mandates reporting on a broader range of sustainability factors, including environmental, social, and governance aspects. And this must be seen as an opportunity to give evidence of energy transition strategies carried out by companies. A second point deals with climate-related disclosures. The CSR directive emphasizes climate-related disclosures, and companies are required to report on their climate-related risks and opportunities, and including their strategies to mitigating and managing this risk. So for companies transitioning from fossil fuels to renewable energy source, this involves disclosing their transition strategies, target for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and the financial implication of that. Another level deals with the transition plans. Companies undergoing energy transition need to provide a clear and comprehensive transition plan as part of their reporting obligation under the CSRD. These plans should outline the company's roadmap for phasing out fossil fuel and increasing the use of renewable energy source. Another important point, in my opinion, is the impact assessment. The CSRD requires companies to assess and disclose the impact of their energy transitions on various stakeholders, including employees, communities, investors. Companies need to report on how their transition strategy consider the social and economic implication, such as job creation or displacement in the transition from fossil fuel to renewable. And finally, there is a point related to the reporting assurance, because the CSRD introduces provisions for independent assurance of sustainability reports to enhance their reliability and credibility. Companies may need to engage external auditor or assurance provider to validate the accuracy and the completeness of their reporting on energy transition. So the compliance with these requirements, in my opinion, is essential for companies to demonstrate their commitment to sustainability and in their energy transition effort.
Well, thank you for that, Giuseppe. I'm going to move down over to you, Ruyi, and to talk a little bit about market reputation. So how can adherence to CSRD's reporting requirements enhance a company's market reputation and attractiveness to investors, especially those prioritizing environmental, social, and governance criteria?
Thank you, Kurt. I think everybody can hear me. Yeah, okay. Yes, the CSR is aiming to improve, in fact, the transparency and also the consistency of ESG reporting across Europe. So with the access to a very reliable, comparable sustainability reporting information, investors will be able to redirect their investment towards a more, I would say, sustainable technologies and industrials. So I believe that when we are talking about CSR requirements, every stakeholders should understand that nowadays we're not talking about something nice to have, but it's becoming a must-have because this is representing a lot of source of opportunities for the companies. I would say that, in my opinion, the firstly, adherence to the CSR requirement can improve the transparency and the quality of your social and environmental data, impact data. So this transparency will build trust with your investors, your customers, and other stakeholders so that they are going to enhance your company's own reputation and create valuable accountabilities and integrity. Another aspect I would say is about the risk management. To comply with the CSRD, it requires companies also correctly assess and report your sustainability risks. So such risks can be, as previously said by my colleagues, about the climate change impacts, for instance, and also the supply chain vulnerability. So by proactively, I would say, managing these risks and also especially to propose mitigation measures, this is definitely will strengthen your company's reputation and demonstrate, in fact, your resilience and your risks management experts. So this is very important. Furthermore, also to comply with the CSRD, it requires also your company to demonstrate that you are fully commitment to meet all the regulations, obligations, and so that you can address also all your stakeholders' concern about sustainability, about all your ESG data. So this will help reinforce your stakeholders' confidence in your company's viability in the long term. Okay, and so definitively companies who's putting more efforts in sustainability will also, I would say, differentiate with your competitors who is not doing this, because this is show your competitive advantage. So a strong reputation for sustainability and ESG performance will definitively attract social responsible end users, EPC contractors, as I'm representing here, so that this will improve also your competitive advantages. Later on, I think in the long term, this will also give you a lot of access to the capitals, maybe to more capitals than your competitive, because the investors, in fact, they are increasingly considering this ESG factors in their decision making. So with your company's compliance, this will enhance actually the attractiveness to those who are very focused on ESG aspects, and eventually increase their access to capitals. As I'm representing Technip Energies, so I would take an example of how we as EPC contractors are doing. So we are already embedded in our procurement process, this ESG mindset, I would say. So during our vendor qualification process, we have already introduced in our question a quite comprehensive level of ESG KPIs, which we ask our supply chain to report, to demonstrate, and we are going to issue, after review, a kind of ESG score. And throughout also our procurement cycle, we are also monitoring supplies ESG performance compared or progress compared with what you have reported in your annual report or sustainability report. So later on, we want also to introduce the ESG KPIs in our commercial bid tabulation, for instance. So we are particularly, I would say, focused on some very fundamental ESG KPIs or factors, such as how you're using the recycling materials, how you mix the green energies, and what is your greenhouse emissions, what is your how to calculate the CO2 in terms of transportations, and later on, what is the percentage of the local sourcing from your own supply chain. So those suppliers who are already very concerned and have already tackled all these questions will find it quite comfortable in replying this question set up from an EPC contractor point of view. And definitively from our side, we are also having a more confidence in doing business with those who are already embedded all these criteria in your own business operations. So to conclude, I think I am strongly, and as well as Technip, we are strongly convinced that CSRD compliance will definitively enhance your company's market reputation and provides its commitment to a more sustainability, transparency, and responsible business practices.
All right, thank you so much, Ruyi. We're going to move over to Dario Buccellato, who is joining us via Zoom. Dario, are you there?
I'm here. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you just fine. So, to the twin subjects of decarbonization and energy transition, can you share a little bit with us about IOGP's strategy in the energy transition area?
Yes. Thank you. Well, first of all, let me apologize for not being there in the room, but due to a business-related urgency, I was not able to come in person. So apologies for this. But I think is an important topic, and this conference is very relevant because it's very relevant for the industry. So first of all, let me say IOGP is the association of the International Association of Oil and Gas Producers. So we represent roughly 90 members, out of which 75 are operators. So starting from Eni, since we are in Italy, to, I don't know, BP, Shell, Chevron, you name, it's one of our members, but also including national oil companies, ADNOC, Aramco, Petrobras, Petronas. So we are bringing together all of them on some specific topics. So IOGP has been created more than 50 years ago on the urgency of tackling the safety aspect of the market and the industry. Then we developed into the environmental, and only recently we focus on the energy transition with the past 3 years spent in delivering some specific topics on energy transition. So when we say IOGP is a technical organization, so we support the industry from a technical perspective. And when we say energy transition are only two words, but really they can be declined in many other aspects, and it's a very broad topic. So what we did in the industry with our members is to consider which part of the energy transition we want to focus on. And of course, representing the upstream companies, the key and let's say primary objective is to start showing that the industry is working towards the decarbonization, which doesn't mean, honestly, to move rapidly from one day to another from hydrocarbon to renewables, which is not feasible. We need to be pragmatic and realistic. So energy transition is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And for this reason, basically the members said, let's start focusing on which is the area that we can influence the most, which is decarbonizing scope 1 and scope 2 emission. So we have been working for the past more than 24 months on developing technical documents, guidelines, recommended practice to tackle exactly those topics. So scope 1 and scope 2 emission reduction. And coming back to the comments done, I think, by the colleague from the academia, there are several work streams in this aspect when we talk about decarbonization. We talk about electrification, we talk about energy efficiency, we talk about flare reduction in our industry, but also in the long term, well, there are some projects, but these are much longer term kind of implementation, also CCS. For this reason, we've been working those 5 main streams: CCS, energy efficiency, flare and vent, electrification, and methane emission reduction, developing technical documents to support the industry. And this has been done thanks to the support of more than 2,500 experts coming from the members, but also in our process, we have been involving all the stakeholders. So guys like the colleague from Technip, so EPCs have been involved in consultation, but also valve manufacturers and equipment manufacturers, to make sure that we are all working towards the same direction. So decarbonization doesn't mean remove oil and gas, but support the oil and gas to decarbonize their process.
All right, appreciate that, Dario. Back to you, Stefano. So on the subject of decarbonization reporting, how does the mandate, how does that affect companies to report on their carbon reduction initiatives and progress towards decarbonization goals? Are there specific metrics or indicators that are required?
Yeah. Do you hear me? Okay. The standard related to decarbonization and carbon management is one of the most important in among the other standards of the USRS. This is the starting point. It's very important to take inspiration of what my colleagues mentioned, because when you report about the capability of a company, how can manage carbon issue, the decarbonization issue, is the most important disclosure where the financial institution, but also the stakeholder start the evaluation of a company. Because at the time, many companies define a target, and decarbonization is one of the most quantifiable data and performance than the other. Obviously, the data related and the performance related to the social is very not so simple to quantify, to monitor, but the carbon management, the performance related to carbon is quantifiable. And from this standpoint, a good disclosure related to carbon management is one of the most important starting point for the evaluation of a company, as I said. What what is requested by CSRD. Previously is requested obviously the inventory of scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 with the different KPI and the different deep dive on the different scope. For example, energy, which kind of energy source, if are renewable or not, if are from nuclear, from biogenic source, and so on, for example, for scope 1 and scope 2. But it's very important to focus on scope 3 and to go away the border of the company, because scope 3 is more focused on the supplier, and is one of the most important part of the inventory of a company, for example. The inventory is very important to have a good inventory in order to have a good strategy to reduction, because you have to have a good calculation of the inventory, the scope 3, in order to define reduction and targets. At the same time, when you define and you have a picture of your inventory and your impact on carbon, you have to define a transition plan. This transition plan obviously have to consider at the same time your impact, but also, and I think that is most important, the scenario of the evaluation of your carbon inventory, but at the same time the scenario where you manage the carbon in the future, the evaluation of the technologies, for example, which is the technologies that are available in the future. I have to focus on hydrogen, I have to focus on biomass, I have to change my way to produce my product. This is the most important things to focus on for the transition plan, and to disclose outside the company in order to be a good evaluation of the company. The transition plan is one of the most important statements related to, for example, the rating on the financial, the rating on the agency rating, and so on. And the company have to describe the transition plan in order to describe the alignment with the target, the Paris Agreement, for example. This is one of the requests, but also at the same time have to demonstrate which is the measure in order to reach the targets, and also the investment related to that. And at the same time, the CSRD and the ISRS in particular request to identify which of these investments, for example, are aligned with the EU taxonomy regulation, another regulation to keep in mind in order for the future strategy. When you describe and to disclose your transition plan, you have to integrate this kind of measure in your strategy, because when you define the new investment for the future, you have to keep in mind that you have considered, for example, the EU taxonomy criteria, the EU taxonomy indicator, and also the evaluation of the risk, the disclosure of to the risk, to the climate risk, for example. And finally, also to the ethical behavior and the respect on and human rights, for example, to be aligned with the EU taxonomy. All of these things have to disclose on the transition plan. The transition plan is not only a decarbonization plan in order to reduce your carbon inventory, but you have to disclose about your capability to recognize the issue of climate, how impact on your company, and how you adapt to climate change. This is the most important things to keep in mind in order to describe you do not only to describe the activities that you put in place and your performance as the GRI request in the past. You have to see to the future. You have to consider the future, the evaluation of the future, also the climate risk have to evaluate and how they develop and to impact on your company, on your supply chain, for example. You have to consider all of these in order to define your strategy. In particular, climate is, I think, one of the most impacting things on the strategy, on the plan of the company. You have to consider when you have a new supplier, if the supplier is impacted or not, is affected or not by climate change. In the past, for example, I mentioned an example on automotive sector. In 2019, in the south of Germany, there was a flooding, a very important flooding. All the sector related to automotive stopped the activities for 2 weeks. This is a very important financial impact. For the reason, when you disclose about climate, which is your strategy, which is your capability to identify and manage risk, how you define your investment in order to reduce your impact and to adapt to the future. This is the most important things in order to demonstrate the capability of the company to face the future.
Sounds good to me. Ramesh, I want to talk a little bit about the impact on non-EU companies. So, for example, for subsidiaries of non-EU companies that now fall under the CSRD, how significant are the changes compared to their existing reporting practices, and also what specific challenges might they face?
This is a big challenge as far as European companies are concerned, because like I said, the new CSRD that has come in is pushing the boundaries and making people actually commit and walk the talk, right? Yes, companies in the US who started off reporting their journey with GRI, there is an interoperability index between CSRD and GRI. So some of the initiatives that you continue in the non-EU companies will have an impact with respect to the CSRD area. But to Stefano's point, where he was talking about the focus on climate change and focus on reporting decarbonization. So these are areas which I think we need to go beyond what we are currently reporting and then look at a different set of KPIs as well, both quantitative and qualitative. And these needs to be aligned to your business strategies as well and committed to the board through this integrated report. There is a lot of work that needs to get done when we do this. So what people like us, valve manufacturers, do is to go ahead and get a set of experts to actually help us in terms of the way forward. The very big change that we say here in terms of CSRD vis-a-vis the other initiatives in other countries, CSRD requires the impact, what we call a double materiality is what we need to do, meaning the impact should not only be assessed technically, but the impact needs to be assessed financially as well. So a double materiality impact on what an organization goes ahead and how does it affect the economy, how does it affects environment, people, and more importantly, human rights, not only technically, because people were doing it technically all along, but that needs to be done financially as well, both X and Y matrix to get your, what is material to your organization. So this needs a lot of work. this needs a lot of data collection. So the data that needs to be collected is going to be multi-fold. And you need to be talking to multiple groups of people. There will be many stakeholders who needs to be consulted actually to figure out what your double materiality is. There is a lot of work that needs to get done, but working with professionals who are actually been doing this over the last maybe 5-6 years, who understand materiality well, he's helping organizations like us to really go ahead and comply with the requirements. And also to Louis' point, we do work a lot with Technip, and so we understand the requirements of people like Technip and others and the end users as well. Because the questionnaires that do come in, we get a lot to learn from them. And there are end users who ask us to go ahead and get ourselves marked through players like EcoVadis, Sustainalytics, multiple players are there. So we go ahead and put up a lot of documentation to get to know where we are. So this is also helping us. So multiple areas, like some knowledge coming in from the customers, some knowledge coming in from the reporting agencies, and a lot of knowledge coming in from experts like consultants like KPMG, PwC, EY. We work with a couple of them to help us out to come out with our sustainability strategies. But all in all, a lot of work needs to get done.
Well, it's encouraging to hear that the companies are actually working more and more in cooperation. That'll help get things moving a little faster. So, Giuseppe, focusing a little bit on alignment with the EU Green Deal. In what ways does the CSRD align with the broader goals of the European Green Deal, particularly regarding climate neutrality and sustainable energy practices?
Yeah, we can say that there is a kind of superposition between the objectives of the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive and the goals of the European Green Deals. In some way, we can say that the CSRD supports and reinforces the objectives of the European Green Deals in various ways. Firstly, a climate neutrality commitment. We know that the European Green Deal aims to make the European Union carbon neutral by 2050. And the CSRD complements this objective by requiring companies to report on their climate-related risks, opportunities, and emissions. And by mandating climate-related disclosures, the CSRD helps companies contribute to the European climate neutrality goal by promoting transparency and accountability in their effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and transition to a low carbon business model. Secondly, transition to sustainable energy. One of the pillars of the European Green Deal is the transition to sustainable energy source. The CSRD supports this goal by encouraging companies to disclose information about their energy consumption, source of energy, and strategies for transitioning to renewable energy source. By providing transparency around energy practices and transition plans, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive facilitate the shift towards a more sustainable and decarbonized energy system, perfectly in line with the objectives of the European Green Deal. Another point deals with the circular economy and the resource efficiency. The European Green Deal emphasizes the importance of promoting a circular economy and improving resource efficiency. And the CSRD encourages companies to report on their resource use, their waste generation, and circular economy initiatives. So by disclosing information on the resource consumption, waste management practices, companies can contribute to achieve the goal of the European Green Deal and to sustain the European efforts to promote resource efficiency and a transition toward a circular economy. Another point is related to social and environmental consideration, because also in the European Green Deal, in addition to climate-related and energy-related aspects, also social and environmental issues are addressed, like I don't know, biodiversity loss or social inequality. So this is another point of superposition. The CSRD expands the scope of sustainability reporting requirements to include a wide range of factors. So by mandating disclosures on social and environmental impacts, the CSRD promotes holistic, sustainable processes and practices that are aligned with the goals of the European Green Deal. And finally, we can mention the investor confidence and the market stability, because the European Green Deal aims to mobilize private sector investment towards sustainable and green projects. And the CSRD emphasize and enhance investor confidence by improving the quality and the comparability of sustainability disclosures, enabling in that way investors to make informed decision based on the reliable ESG data. So by promoting transparency and accountability, the CSRD contributes to the stability and resilience of a financial market, and supporting the transition to a sustainable and green energy, as envisioned by the European Green Deal.
So thank you, Giuseppe. It sounds like companies have a number of things they can do yet to improve the process and guarantee that they'll make the grade in terms of their reporting. So Ruyi, back to, there's going to be some regulatory compliance challenges. So in your mind, what are the major challenges that companies might face in complying with the CSRD, especially those that are new to sustainability reporting or have previously not been subject to the non-financial reporting directive? How should they prepare for these challenges?
Yeah, thank you again, Kurt. I think, Ramesh, you have touched base already. I would say the most fundamental challenges. I will not repeat more for that, but I think today, as you rightly said, Giuseppe, the CSRD is looking for more transparency and reliability of the data. So I think because here we're in the IVS and we're talking about a lot of valve manufacturers and their subsidiaries, or also their corporate peers. So I think what is primary difficulties or challenges would be a lack of experience, because companies, those are very new to the CSR requirement, may really struggling to understand the complexity of the requirement. What are the data basis, what are the disclosures that the CSRD is requiring, and what are the frameworks that they're going to ask for. So this is very challenging to start the journey. And so without obviously this past experience, companies may find it struggle to understand also the frameworks, and also when they collect the data, they need to understand if that these data are really what the stakeholders are looking for, how accuracy these data are, and how consistent these data are compared to the industrial practices, you know. So because this CSR, they have introduced a more stringent report standard compared with this non-financial report directory. So it is important to select the appropriate data, to select the appropriate reporting frameworks, so that the industrial best practices will be demonstrated. When we're talking a lot about data, all my peers just said that data collection is important. So I think another challenge will be how to rely on the data availability and quality, and how to make sure that they're accurate and reliability. So this obviously requires all the companies to have a very robust data management system in order to create and collect a wide range of sustainability data across all the different ESG impacts and practices. So this will come to another challenge. I would say it is related with the resource. Do you have enough resource in your company to doing so? Because of course, your core business is to manufacture all the materials, components, and you already, I would say, struggled onto your day-to-day work. So how in parallel you need also to put enough resources to find the expertise, a team to create or to apply all this compliance. This is very challenging because you need to spend more money into the personnel, but also into your systems. So all these I think are the major I would say challenges, but it doesn't mean that, okay, there's no solutions. Obviously, there will be a lot of solutions as well. So I would see that firstly is that you need to train and educate your personnel. Most of the vendors that I just today I've talked to, all the managed team is well aware about how this is importance or this subjects, but maybe the training is still necessary to deepen in your own organization. Not only managers need to understand, but also all your employees need to understand how it is required and what this will impact on their daily life. And also, we are talking about the access of the data system. So you need to assess if your existing data management system is robust enough to demonstrate, to provide all this information, because you work with not only your own organization, different departments, but also you're working with your subsidiaries. Do they report the same data as you report in your headquarters? And also some of you are really multinational, so you have also different geographic locations around. So how your peers in another geographic location is reporting the same data. So again, maybe you needed to invest, I would say, on the data management system which is unique, which can satisfy the need of your industry. So this is another, I would say, solutions. And obviously today we have the privilege to have KPMG with us. You know, always try to seek external support is very important. As I come back to, I previously said, what is important is to find a balance between your day-to-day operation and what you need to do for the CSR requirements. So I think all the experts out there, they know the laws and the regulations, their expertise on their domain, so don't hesitate to involve them also in your decision making, for instance, and this is very important. Finally, again, as I am coming from Technip, I'm representing 10. I think that you need to create some dialogues with your peers, with your industrial leaders, your end users, understand what is their need so that you can speak with their language. And in this way, I think we can together, end users, EPC contractors, and manufacturers, to level up the standardization of the industry, so that all our data reporting will be at the same direction and tackle the real same ESG reporting issues. Okay, so I will conclude as from Technip energy point of view, we are already very active in our different dialogues within our supply chain. It is indeed our DNA to address all these ESG issues, and we are having, I'm quite proud to say that we're maybe one of the first engineering companies, contractors, who is really focus our efforts. Last year we have organized our first ESG council in November in our headquarters in Paris. So during this event we have invited more than 20 supplies market leaders in our discussion. It is aimed to share the practices, because maybe for those who is quite advanced in this journey of ESG, the suppliers can bring opinions and best practice to the others who is maybe not yet that advanced to this ESG journey. So we have created this platform of exchange, dialogues, and I think it is really appreciated also by all our supply chain, because they feel that, okay, they are going to address the concerns which the subcontractor is addressing. So ultimately our end users are going to ask the same questions. So, and also in this year we are going to also, I'm doing a lot of promotion, but of course we're going to issue a second ESG council, which we aim to deepen our engagement by sharing also our ESG expectations that I have previously touched base some of the points. So I think as a conclusion, I think well, CSRD is representing really a strong step forward to a more sustainable and more accountable business environment. So overcoming all these different steps of challenges, I think especially in a very strategic and in a very proactive approach, I think we are going to drive really positively all the changes in the industry in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruyi, and it sounds like the companies have a good start on overcoming these challenges. So Dario, back to you, maybe from a little more generalized point of view at this juncture, again with respect to both decarbonization and energy transition, what is IOGP doing in the technical space to support the oil and gas energy transition?
Thanks, Kurt. Well, before coming back to the question, let me just emphasize, because I like what the colleague from Technip said, and this for me very, very relevant. In the energy transition, no one is alone. And this is a journey that we have been starting together, and collaboration, sharing exercise, any kind of coming together and learning from each other has a lot of value, and we should not leave anyone behind, because again, if we succeed, we will when we succeed, we will succeed all together. And this is also a key spirit in IOGP. Again, it's an association, so we are bringing people together, we are bringing experts together. And coming to the question about technologies, having in mind the goal of energy transition in IOGP, which is helping the industry to decarbonize Scope 1 and 2, we started from the very basic, which is linked also to the reporting topics we were discussing before, or the data management. So how people can make sure that they are addressing the stuff in the proper way with technology. Is there a single technology? Not always. For instance, in the methane space, if somebody wants to take into account which kind of methane emission they have in a plant, is there one technology that can fit everything? No. So there are multiple technologies. For this purpose, we have developed a tool that will guide the industry in selecting which is the most important technology for the specific asset, if it's, I don't know, in the Mediterranean area, or if it's in the North Sea or in Asia Pacific. Other stuff that we have developed in terms of publication is on the electrification side. So we want to electrify assets. So because if we electrify, means we burn less hydrocarbon on site, and therefore we reduce the carbon footprint. Which kind of asset, which kind of equipment can be electrified? How can it be electrified? An onshore asset is relatively easy, but if we go offshore, how does it work? Which kind of cables do we need to use? Which kind of maybe battery system we can use? Their recommended practice are addressing all those topics. And then going down into specifics, how to decarbonize an asset from a big plant that has flares. So which kind of technologies, again, can be used there? Flare gas recovery system, or how to capture vent stream from an asset. All those topics have been collected together, included into a specific document that are available to the wider industry, because this is also another big advantage of IGP. We are developing everything with the support of the industry, but we make it available for the wider industry. So there is no one publication that is not available for the wider public. Anyone can go on our website and have access, consult, and also get back to the expert to have more clarity in it. And this involves, again, all the work stream that I was referring before in my, let's say, my first intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Dario. Appreciate your insights there. Before we wrap this up, I have one question or one observation for the entire roundtable here, and that is, for the benefit of those who are not keeping up with this in the fine detail that some of you are, what is the time frame for getting all of this done? I don't think I've really heard any specific years, months, that kind of thing. Is there some general timetable for accomplishing all these things?
I think from an European perspective, the CSRD clearly indicates that you should start reporting for the group that they have chosen. They should start reporting from the fiscal results of 25, meaning FY26, somewhere around June 26, the company should report their sustainability standards. So I think it's taken a long time to get here, to become serious, to come to the business end of the game, I should say. I think we are at the business end right now, and we need to really act. And because this is not only a parallel strategy, this gets aligned to your sustainability strategy. Sustainability and business now go together. So it is not a separate strategy, it is built into your business right now. So the time is now.
Anyone else want to chime in here?
I think that the company have to improve step-by-step strategy, governance, and so on. And it's correct, the time is now, because the time is long to develop and to structure strategy, to adapt to a new world, a new way to do business for the future. We take in mind that we have to change the supply chain, we change the way to produce our products and so on. And for the reason we have to start now, maybe we'll be also tired. Because from next year we have to have the first report, the sustainability report related to that. And the rules related to this kind of report is very complex, and you can't to choose what to report. You have to report. This is another things to keep in mind. And you have to report about your strategy, about your context, about your measures and targets. You have to start now, or I think you have to start 5 years ago.
just a short consideration about time. I think that every process, every challenge needs the right time to be implemented. Let me mention the hydrogen history. You remember that 25 years ago, we were expecting a hydrogen revolution to be implemented in a few years. When Jeremy Rifkin published the book on hydrogen, we were expecting a new revolution, and we will know that the reality was different, because that time was not right for hydrogen. We were capable to use hydrogen, but we were not ready to produce hydrogen in a sustainable way. So now the scenario is completely different. Now we have a lot of renewables in many markets. In some areas we have too much renewables, too much photovoltaics, too much wind turbines. And so we have a surplus of production that we can store by using hydrogen as energy storage system. So this is just an example in my sector, in the energy sector, to prove that every revolution needs the right time to be implemented.
Yeah, just to quickly say that even we say that the change is now, we have to start it now, but it's never too late to start. So you are not behind the schedule. But I think that, as my peers are saying, that there are a lot of challenges remaining, but you have to start now and really put all your efforts, because this is not just a bureaucratical reportings that everybody needs to just reply. It is really change your business and change the way how you are doing business, so and change the way that you create your new reputations to a more sustainable world. So every companies, I think you are more or less have the ESG roadmap. You have already set up your commitment. So by integrating all this requirement, CSR requirement in your daily life, I think you will naturally reach and progress on your ESG roadmap. And this is a challenging journey, but as we said, that all the stakeholders are together, and so we should help each other and bring all the energies together, and so eventually grown up together.
All right, Dario, any last words on this angle?
Well, I definitely agree with all my colleagues. And as I said before, energy transition is not a sprint, it's a marathon. This is a step in that direction, but people need to acknowledge that some steps have to be taken maybe a bit later, some others immediately. This is one of those that should be taken immediately to get the right experience and be ready for the formal reporting time.
All right, very good. Well, folks, we are now finished with roundtable number 1. I want to thank everyone on the panel for some very good insight into this energy sustainable reporting and decarbonization situation. And we're going to take a break until 4:15, and we will then have our first individual speakers. So if you would please, a round of applause for our participants up here.